Hello there, my name's Jason Tantra, and I'm really happy to chat with you today all about what is tantric sex. And this is one of probably the most popular questions I get. The other one I get is, isn't Tantra all about not coming? And the second one is, what exactly is tantric sex? And if you're joining me today, either you're here on Facebook Live or you're watching it later on one of my video. I'm out of breath. I've been running around to do the Facebook Live. So either you're watching this live with me out of breath on Facebook Live, or you're watching it afterwards as a video. But what I want to talk about specifically today is what is tantric sex and how does that differ from normal sex or typical sex, and kind of I want to put some new ideas on the table. Now I'm kind of broadcasting this, or kind of giving this to mainly my UK audience, and that's because I'm doing a London weekend workshop on Saturday and Sunday, the 27th and 28th of April, and the theme of the weekend is called Ritual and Tantric Sex. And if you like what you're hearing about in today's video, in today's broadcast, then do book yourself one of those places. And if you do that in the next 2 weeks before the end of February, you will get a £25, £25 off the advertised price. And the other thing that you're going to get is 2 free ecstatic videos, one featuring Davey Wavy and Chris Harder, and the other one featuring me talking all about the ecstatic body. So these are kind of some of the reasons why hearing today you kind of might be like, well, where can I come and give this a go? Where can I give it a try? Come to my London weekend. You'd be very, very welcome. And I'd love to, excuse me, I'd love to welcome and introduce you to some of the aspects of tantric sex. Now, I think one of the things just to say up front, okay, is that tantric sex is only a very small part of the overall practice of Tantra. If you look, and I think people sometimes get a little bit overexcited with Tantra because it's all to do with sex, and it's always promising better sex and amazing this and mind-blowing that, and that's all true. But actually, for me, the core reason or the core practice of Tantra is about being on a spiritual journey. And what I mean by being on a spiritual journey is not believing the story that we've been told, not believing everything that we see in front of us, but being curious about finding your own sense of truth. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's just look at the idea of sex for a moment, okay? So what we're told about sex and where we get our information about sex is that it kind of follows porn. It's like, where do we learn about gay sex? We don't have any educational programs. We don't have any kind of nice ways of learning about sex. Like for me, I went to I'm always smiling, went to a Roman Catholic school in England. We had nuns. I can still do Kumbaya on the recorder. But my sex education was, we dissected a rat. That was in the days where, before ethics and before, we dissected a rat and we're like all looking at it. And then they said, there's their reproductive organs. And then they talked about one bit going into the other bit, and then they said, and then that's how humans do it. And my teacher was bright red, and that was the limit of my sex education. So it's like, well, where do we learn about sex? And where do we learn? And we kind of go to porn. It's kind of easy. It's not bad. But the thing is with porn, and I have no beef with porn, but I think there's something about getting clear about what porn is. Porn is is basically designed to arouse, and it does a very, very good job at doing that. Its job is to arouse, and that for me can be different than what the purpose of you having sex might be. Because whilst porn is great, and I call it my digital support aid, you know, we might be using that as we're kind of masturbating, pleasuring, and we may be kind of, you know, using that, but actually the sex that we see is done by porn performers. And what I mean by porn performers is that they are actually paid to perform sexual acts and to make them look great. And you only need to dig around and see, you know, what some of the porn performers are saying about the work that they're doing to know that actually what they're portraying is not real, is not like the real experience. I mean, there's people doing things like Viagra, there's people injecting their cock to get a hard-on for filming. Trust me, it's not all as rosy and as ecstatic as it looks. And some of the porn that I've looked at, I think one of the things that really I find missing is what I talk about authentic connection. Like, there's some porn out there and they're at it like rabbits, and it's super muscly, super sexy, super erotic, bam, 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 and they're just like going for their life. But actually, one of the things I'm feeling in my body is just not feeling connected and not feeling the connection between the two people. And this is an important fact about when we start thinking about the idea of tantric sex. But let me go back a little bit, because actually, if you look at the idea of tantric sex, the reason for doing it is not the same reason that you would have sex. Typically, sex is, oh my god, I feel horny, this guy's hot, let's get off, and we're going to have a great time, and it's all grunty, groany, sweaty, or if after a few years it's between the adverts on Coronation Street. But there's just something about the intention is about, I'm horny, I need to get off, he's hot, he's sexy, I kind of wanna get off with him, and I want to have an interaction. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm kind of proposing is that when you look at the idea of tantric sex, actually the intention is quite different. And yeah, the intention is quite different. So where am I? Where am I? So I was talking about the overall practice of Tantra, and actually tantric sex is a very, very small slither of the overall practice of Tantra. The rest of Tantra is made up of things like yoga, of meditations. We talk about energy work quite often. And for me, because I have a background as a psychotherapist, there's a lot of processing about the experiences that you're having, a lot of processing, a lot of understanding, a lot of questioning, so that the experiences that you have, you can actually kind of bring them to reality, bring them to your day-to-day, and kind of live in a kind of slightly different world, or see the world actually from a slightly different perspective. So the overall practice of Tantra is much more than is much more than the idea of tantric sex. Now, I know I did a video before about tantric sex, and I talked about one way of thinking about tantric sex, and today I kind of want to give you a slightly different idea around tantric sex. And I'm just going to have a slurp of my coffee. Hang on a second. Ah, that's better. A bit of caffeine. Oh. So when we think of the idea of tantric sex, I think for me one of the things that comes up is the idea of possibility and curiosity and being an adventurer. because actually the things that you'll meet in tantric sex are very different to what is going to be going on for you in typical sex. For example, in typical sex, it's about the connection with the other person. You may be finding bits of them erotic or horny. They may be doing things to you that are feeling really good in your body, and it kind of ends there. And that's kind of what the experience is. And then after a while, one of you might come, both of you might come, neither of you might come, but it kind of has that type of ending. And what I'm proposing as tantric sex is a very different game, a different set of rules, a different game, a different board game. Like if you think of normal sex like Monopoly, and tantric sex as being kind of something out of this world. And I'm going to explain a little bit about why that is. So when I mean about out of this world, I think when we talk about typical sex, actually we've only been given 1/7 of the story. Only 1/7 of the story of tantric sex or sex have we been given. You see, when we have sex, it's all very physical, grunty, groany, sweaty, bit of that going on, hopefully. And if we look at that from a perspective of the chakras, then those qualities are all to do with what I call the base chakra around your cock. Like, have you ever had a wank or jerked off and just felt like that it didn't even really touch you? Like, kind of came, but kind of there was just nothing going on. It was just like flat as a pancake. Excuse me, that can be because the sexual energy is all down in your base chakra, and actually there was nothing to expand that, and so it just kind of stayed down there and was kind of a kind of like experience, and it's like, oh, that was all a load of fuss and bother about nothing. And yet, I don't know if you've ever had those times in your life where you've had earth-shattering, oh my God, clawing the walls, screaming orgasms. I don't know if you've ever had one of those. If not, come to my workshop. I'm going to give you some techniques. And if you have, still come to my workshop, because I can maybe offer you something more. But what I mean by that is what happens. What's the difference between an orgasm that's not very like versus one where you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, and it's like, what's the difference? What's making those two things? And for me, it could be that there's the person that's there, but actually one of the questions I ask people is, who is responsible for you having the best sex ever? Kind of who's responsible for that? And people go around and go, it's the other person. And I'm like, well, actually, no, you are responsible for you having the best sex ever. And actually, just by learning some different techniques and also reframing why you might be having sex are really the only two things you need to have absolutely mind-blowing, intergalactic, interplanetary kind of tantric sex, orgasmic experiences. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the experiences that you can have in tantric sex later, but I just want to finish on this idea of chakras. So I don't know if you've ever heard about chakras, but basically we've got 7 of them, and they each have a different quality. They each have a different quality, and they're a little bit like notes on a piano. So like the base chakra is like a low sound, whereas the crown chakra is like is a very, very high sound, and kind of all 7 chakras are like notes in between those. And they each have different qualities. So for example, the base chakra is about earth, is like very grunty, very kind of powerful. It's kind of your core sexual power here on planet Earth. Whereas for example, your 7th chakra is all about being connected to the universe, being connected to everything that's greater than you. For example, the heart is all about connecting with love and found love in all of its different ways. And so these, as I said, 7 chakras have 7 different models, okay? Sorry, 7 different frequencies and 7 different qualities, that once you learn about those, then you've kind of, rather than just having one note on the piano of how you typically have sex, you suddenly have got 7 notes on the piano to start playing with. And then, as I said, if you were changing the intention of why you were having sex, then away from, oh my God, I'm horny, I need to get off, or oh my God, he's horny and I want to get him off, or I want him to get me off. If you put that to one side, although that energy is also really, really useful, that's going to kind of add rocket fuel to what's happening. But actually, for me, tantric sex is about it being a spiritual journey, and a spiritual journey of discovery, and also a spiritual journey of curiosity, being curious about what is potentially there. And the only way I can describe some of the experiences I've had in tantric sex is well, kind of like, if you think about it in a way, like, I'm Jason, I'm here on planet Earth, and I'm living this life, and I'm going around living this life. And what can happen is you just completely buy into the idea that this is that life, this is the only, that is my life, that is who I am, that is everything. And we call that being really identified with that identity, with that persona. So like, I'm Jason Tantra, I could be really over-identified with the fact that this is me, but actually that would open up another question about, well, who are you really? You know, who is really Jason? Is it my mind? You'd be like, and maybe do this afterwards, I'm doing the quick version here. Is it my mind? Is it my body? And it's like, well, you know, what part of me still lives, still exists when I'm dead? That day that I cark it, it's all going to happen to all of us. You know, what part of me is still living? What part of me is permanent? And for me, that is a clue to tantric sex, because tantric sex takes you out of your day-to-day identity and opens up the truth that is really there. It's like we forget moment to moment that we are a planet hurtling through our solar system, hurtling through space. I think it's something like 33,000 miles per second or something ridiculous, but we are absolutely shooting through space, and there is just this vast space of universes, galaxies, innumerable space that our minds can't even begin to comprehend. And that for me is actually the truth of really what's going on. We are all 7 billion souls revolving around this planet, being very identified with what's going on, but we're kind of missing the big picture that we're hurtling through space at the same time, and we're like just a little bit of dust in this whole expanse of the universe. And so for me, there's the thinking of this being what I'm identified with, and that being everything that's out there. And typically when we have sex, we only identify with the this. But actually, tantric sex is about both. It's about the this and the that, okay? It's about what's going on right in front of me here, and knowing that I am part of something far, far, far greater that actually tantric sex is a key to. You see, if you look at different spiritual practices, yoga, meditation, plant medicine, other types of meditation, and other types of spiritual practices, what they're all trying to do is to give you keys to unlock who you are beyond your day-to-day existence, beyond your day-to-day identity, because the truth is you are just so much more. You are so much more than you can actually comprehend, then you can actually understand. And so tantric sex for me is a key that helps you to unlock your energy to be far greater, far more powerful, far more bigger, far more just like everything. Like, you know, the truth is we are everything, and yet we all at the same time, I am Jason that's living a human existence. I'm both this and that at the same time. And actually tantric sex is a magical key that unlocks the ability to see the truth of who you really are. And the key is in the different chakras and getting a resonance and an understanding about those different qualities. And it's also about using those and bringing them into union with another, and both co-creating something that's beyond words. And I know, like when I'm right when I'm having tantric sex, I discover things, sensations, places, maybe experiences, and for me these are all different vibrations of the universe. And another word for the universe for me is consciousness. It's like one of the ideas in like modern spirituality is that the universe is consciousness, and me as Jason on this planet is consciousness living itself through me. I am consciousness, I am that. And it's about me, through my experience of Jason, remembering who I truly am. I am conscious, I am the universe. You see, we live our lives on this earthly plane in such a dense way because we get so bogged down by believing that our life, that is the whole of existence. And you just only need to look up at night time to really discover the truth that you are all of that as well. I promise you, you are all of that as well. And tantric sex is a key to unlock, to have that discovery. So I think, you know, one of the things I'm saying about tantric sex, just try not to fall over there. One of the things I'm saying about tantric sex is that it is a tool, it's a vehicle for discovering who you really are and discovering who you are in relationship with another. I don't know if any of you have seen kind of like the tantric statue where it has this man and woman and they're meeting together in bliss. Well, actually that's, if you've ever seen one, it's actually not a man and a woman. It's actually the divine masculine and the divine feminine meeting together in union to experience enlightenment. Now, people think enlightenment is just a, you know, something you can buy off a supermarket shelf, or it can feel like it's something that you're never going to attain in this life. I've got far too many bad points to be enlightened. But actually it's neither of those. And I think we need to maybe not think about enlightenment as a one-off event, but actually if you imagine it like being like a state of consciousness and different states of awareness, and what I mean by that is like knowing certain things are true, not believing everything that's put in front of you, questioning what's going on. And for me, there's then in not believing, then that for me is awareness. That is kind of that sense of knowing. And so what you're doing in tantric sex with your partner or partners or on your own, it doesn't really matter, is that you're exploring. You're like on a space rocket, okay, and you're doing intergalactic space travel. And if you think that sounds a bit hooky kooky, have a look at some plant medicine journeys. They will absolutely, you can kind of meet the same spaces. Some of the things that you meet in peak spiritual experience experiences, okay, are the same. There's absolute similarities. Like when we talk about the vibration of bliss, okay, so actually experiencing bliss, it's that's a very, very common thing in all spiritual practices. And for me, the bliss is kind of the note of the universe. It's kind of the how would I describe it? It is kind of everything. It is, you know, it is the ultimate. Bliss is the universal state of truth. And by doing silent meditation, you can achieve it there, but you can also achieve it at the peak of your orgasm. And actually, once you learn to play with orgasm and you learn to break orgasm down, then you can start to open yourself to different experiences that quite literally are intergalactic, are experiences that are beyond maybe anything you've ever experienced in traditional sex. And it's just so much more than who you are on a day-to-day basis. It's just so much broader, so much bigger, just so much more, yeah. Just so much more. That's why I'm here talking to you on Facebook Live, or as I said, you're watching this as a video, because I'm really passionate, because I think Tantra, what I love about it is that it's a very grounded, physical way of having deep, spiritual, expansive experiences that are just huge. So I think, and for me, you know, in choosing a spiritual practice, my sexual energy is just a way of opening me up, and it's far more entertaining than maybe silent meditation, yoga. It's far more, you haven't got to go to Peru on an aeroplane. You know, it's kind of here, and it's much more fun. And I think also, in some ways, it's also much more accessible as well. So listen, I hope you really enjoyed my chat with you today about what tantric sex is. And what I'm saying is that it's a very different portal of intention about why you're having a connection. And there's some techniques and some ideas that I think can open up. Like the purpose of tantric sex for me is about absolutely expansion, absolutely about experiencing much, much more. Yeah, I could talk much more, as you've no doubt. If you get any questions, please pop them on. I'd be really happy to answer those for you. And yeah, I've really enjoyed sharing with you today, and I hope this kind of gives you some ideas about tantric sex, and hopefully it's busted some myths for you too. Okay, lots of love. I'm going to be talking to you again soon, and enjoy your day wherever you are. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye. So thank you for watching my YouTube clip. If you enjoyed it, please like it. And if you'd like more, then do subscribe to my channel. And if you have any questions, leave them on a comment below, and I'll be happy to answer those for you. Thank you.